Hi, my name is Angela Prowsick. I'm one of the public education officers here at Regina Fire and Protective Services, and we want to talk about careless cooking fires. Most importantly, we want to talk about how to prevent them. Right now, careless cooking is our leading cause of fires right here in Regina. Over the last 10 years, we've had 468 fires caused by careless cooking, close to $4 million worth of damage, and one person has died because of a cooking-related fire. So we want to look at what causes these fires, and most important of all, how to prevent them. So here at the fire station, I want to welcome you to my disaster kitchen. These are things not to do. What we can see here right now on the stovetop is a whole bunch of combustible material that's captured on top of the stove, and that's the last thing that we want to have happening. So if we look at what's causing our cooking-related fires, the number one cause is people cooking and leaving the kitchen. They are distracted. In this day and age where we're all very, very busy and we're multitasking, people may get called away to help their children. They may get called to look at their computer, their iPhone, to answer the telephone. We've seen all of those behaviors happening here in our city, and those are the types of things that result in a cooking fire that either damages or destroys your entire kitchen, sometimes your entire home. So the best way to prevent that type of fire from happening is to simply stay in the kitchen. And when we're cooking at our stovetop, we want to make sure that the stove is not like this. We want to make it clear of anything that can burn, anything that's combustible. So we want to remove the towels, we want to remove the newspaper. We want to ensure that our entire cooking surface is clear of anything that is combustible. So we'll leave the pan there right now. We want to keep our cooking supplies handy. Certainly when we're using cookbooks, we want to keep them close, but not anywhere near to the stovetop itself. We want to keep that well away from any heat source. And unless we're using the burner, we want to make sure that we want to keep our pots and pans off of the stovetop as well. Quite often people will store their pots and pans on top of the stove. But what can happen there, and what we have seen happen, is when the person goes to turn the burner on, they think they're turning this burner on with the pan on it, but what they're actually doing is turning on perhaps the one that's behind it, and all of a sudden you've got a fire. So unless you're using the actual pan, keep everything away from the stovetop that could possibly catch fire. Same thing down below on, here at floor level. We want to keep things like toys well away from the oven and the stove area. We want to make sure that children and pets are kept at least 1 meter or 3 feet away from the actual stove area. We had a recent fire where there was a person who actually put a kettle on the stove. The kettle was designed to go on top of the burner. That person left the kitchen, but unfortunately, in doing so, that person had a number of combustible materials right close to the burners, and in leaving the kitchen and having the kettle on, these combustible materials caught fire, and within a matter of simply a few minutes, his entire home was destroyed. So again, keeping anything that's combustible well away from the stovetop. And the number one rule of thumb, the most important thing to remember, is to stay in the kitchen. A fire can happen in as little as a few minutes. Usually we think we have more time than that, but we leave the kitchen, and this pan, there could be a flame that starts in there, and within 1.5 minutes that flame will transfer up to the cupboards, impinge on the cupboards area, spread across the entire kitchen cupboards, and within 1.5 minutes of that flame starting in the pot, our entire kitchen is destroyed. That's how quickly a fire can occur in our kitchen. If that pan does catch on fire, if the food that's cooking in the pan catches on fire, by staying in the kitchen, what we can do is, if we cook with a lid that's nearby and is handy, we can catch that flame as it starts. And the way to extinguish that flame is to simply grab the lid, slide the lid over the pan, and we want to slide it because that way we're trapping the heat and the air in the pan. Turn the burner off, and by taking away the oxygen, which is what the lid does, the flame will continue to burn for a few seconds until all of the oxygen is depleted in that pan, and then the fire self-extinguishes.